Well, I started playing violin in Port Angeles, where I grew up. I started playing about age 5. My older brother played, and I wanted to be like him. So played Suzuki, did that whole thing. But after that, I commuted to Seattle for lessons in high school a bit, and then I went up to Oberlin Conservatory after. One of the great things about Oberlin, and the reason I went there, is because of this double degree program that they have, where you can, if you're admitted to the Conservatory of Music and the college, which is a liberal arts college, you can, enroll in both schools simultaneously and come out with a bachelor's degree in both. And so I knew I wanted to study violin, but I knew I was also interested in getting another degree, and I was leaning towards the biological sciences, but it wasn't until I got to Oberlin and took some neuroscience classes and I really fell in love with the topic and found it really fascinating. And then later in my undergraduate career, I really got a little more interested in the connections between music and neuroscience, which is fascinating, and it's a popular topic. So I love having both. I love having, they're very different in many ways. They exercise your brain in different ways, but it's also fun to explore the connections. It's definitely a struggle, and I'm still working on getting that one sentence description that really describes what I do. And each world has got a different take, and I really am serious about both. So I don't want. It's easy when people hear that you do something else professionally to think that you're not that serious about it. Especially in music, I think when you're freelancing around, people are interested in the fact that I work in a lab, but it takes a little description to make them realize that I'm really pursuing that seriously. It's definitely keeps me busy to have performances, and it works out that it seems like I have something at least every weekend, sometimes twice a week, and there aren't too many downtimes, but I just, they're all things that I want to be doing, and great opportunities to make music with great musicians. And if I have the time, if I can make the time, then sometimes I just have these moments where I don't usually have to remind myself where I'm at, but it's definitely, I get on overload and realize, the next morning I have to be somewhere or race off to this next thing. Sometimes it gets a little disorienting. Symphony, it's great because everyone they want to be there. They love music. It's a really nice group of people, great conductor, and it's fun being concertmaster for an orchestra, getting to be involved in the leadership, the solo, all aspects of the music making process. You get sort of a foot in, and I really enjoy being involved in that kind of leadership. The Northwest Sinfonietta is a great group. It's a really strong professional chamber orchestra, and I'm lucky to be the associate concertmaster there, which again, I get to be involved in leadership. I get to be concertmaster for a lot of the performances, and it's really fun to be making music on that small scale, and to have a section of only 6 first violins, which is insanely small, but to be playing Beethoven symphonies and to be working on such a small scale, it's almost like chamber music. It is like chamber music. And the challenge of creating section sound with so few instruments is really interesting, because it's hard to become unified, but once everyone gels, the sound becomes something really different than you would get with a symphony of 16 first violins, and it's a really fun group of people. And Seattle Baroque is great. So I also play some Baroque violin, and that group again is wonderful because there's this liveliness about it. I don't know if you've ever seen Ingrid Matthews lead the ensemble, but she's just a wonderful person and a wonderful musician that just sort of radiates this joy. And I don't play a ton of Baroque music, but I really enjoy playing with this group, and again, it just reminds me of the life that's in this music, and keeps me. I'm excited about this concert. I think it's going to be a fun experience. It's certainly a bold move for an orchestra to open their season with these programs, but I'm I'm really hoping that it'll attract a different sort of audience, maybe a younger audience, or bring a new perspective to this chamber orchestra as we start the season and move to Benray Hall, the rest of our concerts and everything. Stravinsky's Soldier's Tale, it's a 20th century masterpiece and maybe known to certain classical music groups, but it's certainly not as well known as his Firebird Suite or some of his more famous large orchestral works. And people that have heard those pieces may be a little bit surprised at the sound, because for one, this piece is written for 7 instruments: violin, string bass, trombone, trumpet, bassoon, clarinet, and percussion. A very odd mix that there's only a handful of pieces written with this instrumentation, and I think all of them came after the Stravinsky, so they're all imitating that group of instruments, that had to do with the fact that during World War I and after World War I, it was very hard to get musicians together because many of them were off in war, and this was sort of the group that he came up with. There's the soldier who marches off. He has 10 days leave from the army, and I won't tell the entire plot, but he runs into the devil, and he ends up selling his violin and arguably his soul to the devil for this book. And the book foretells the future of the economy. And I mean, what a timely bit of, wouldn't we all pay anything for the book that foretold the economy today? Yeah, the violin is the soldier, and usually it's performed with kind of a stunt double. There's an actor up there, and depending on how elaborately it's staged, the soldier might just sort of airbow, or they may pull out some instrument. I read about one performance by Anthony Marwood, who actually memorized a bunch of the music as the violinist himself and performed the role of the soldier, which I'm not going to attempt in this concert. That involves a lot of padding your... The Dead Elvis piece is clear reference to the Stravinsky, same instrumentation again, and it's dealing with the most famous rock star of all time, Elvis Presley, and we have our bassoonist dressed in an Elvis impersonator's costume, and so this piece sort of grapples with a modern take on selling one's soul for fame, or for fame and fortune. Again, sort of a modern take on these issues that strange look. And I mean, Seattle is a leader with so many bands came out of Seattle, the grunge movement and everything. There's a ton of innovation and a ton of innovative thinking in the city, and it's an incredible environment for musical innovation. But somehow, I think that the classical music community has become quite conservative here, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for that to be developed. There's not nearly as much as you'd expect from a really forward-thinking West Coast city. You look down at San Francisco and Los Angeles, and there's symphonies there, and they're right on the cutting edge. The symphonies are programming really interesting new works that people actually come to see, and the audiences come and they're involved in it. And I think it's not just an issue of well, do you want to sell tickets or do you want to program something interesting? You can find a really nice middle ground. I think the most important thing is what really needs to change is the feel that classical music isn't accessible, or that it's somehow stuffy. There's something about the culture of it that isn't working, and that is keeping young people away, and is keeping some innovative thinking away from it.